Hello, everybody. I'm Jonathan Betzler. Welcome to the 17th No Name Cinema Society, where we're going to talk about all sorts of films. It's a night-long process. We got a long night ahead of us. As I said, once again, I'm Jonathan Betzler. And yeah, tonight, we're going to start out talking about Black Mass right now, and then later on in the evening, we're talking about the indie from 2010 called Rabbit Hole. I forgot to take off my glasses, even though I told Jay Money to do that. And we are also going to talk about, at the end of the evening, we're going to talk about, our classic is 1975's Shampoo. And then at 10:30 Eastern, 7:30 Pacific, we're going to have our freeform segment, Sound Off. So we got a long evening ahead of us. We're going to start with talking about Black Mass. Let me introduce my co-workers here, my co-hosts. One of which is a very bad fantasy football player. Ladies and gentlemen, Dave Joseph in our league. How you feeling about the league so far, Davey?
I'm getting it handed to me so far, but Stafford, not good.
And he's injured, isn't he?
Oh, is he? That's even better. All right, well, we'll go look at that.
He might be injured. He's getting like MRIs or some such thing.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, sorry to be the one to give you the bad news.
Live on TV. Go on.
Jay Money, what are you drinking this weekend? This evening. Whoa, this weekend.
Well, this weekend. I mean, who knows? The sky's the limit over the weekend. But given that it is now what day is this? Tuesday? I'm just sticking to beer today. I'm going to have a harpoon.
I'm also drinking beer. It's leftover beer from the last CMS, so I've got the Coors Light going. Although no one paid us to product placement, so
I'm still holding out for that. Even if they just want to give us free samples, I'm on board with that idea. What do you have there?
Me?
Yeah, what did you say it was?
It was Coors Light leftover from the.
Very nice, very nice.
I mean, I'll take what I can get. I've got some more in the fridge, but I've got another CMS coming on Saturday, and I know no one will drink the Coors Light. So not Saturday, Thursday. What is wrong with me?
Who knows what day it is? We don't even know.
I just got back. I saw a lot of Jay Money in New York. I just got back, and I had a crazy couple weeks, as these guys can testify. Jay Money, especially, you know that I had a real good week, don't you?
Yeah, that's right. A lot of things happened for JB. A lot of things moved for him. The Earth specifically.
Davey Joe, we have a story to tell you later.
I can't wait.
Anyway, I'm wearing the Angels hat. I debated a lot about which hat to wear tonight, because apparently, according to Davey, it's my thing. I have to wear a hat. And it might be the last time I can wear an Angels hat, at least with any meaning, because they're fighting for a playoff spot. Only like 10 games left or so. But I did my Hawaiian Angels hat, so it makes it up a little bit. So it was a little different. Hope you guys are okay with that.
I like it.
I will accept it this time.
All right, so I've got a bomb to drop on you guys. Oh, before we do that, actually, I just want to quick throwback to last week. Last week we talked about a film called We Are Your Friends. So I want to see if you guys recognize. I was walking down the street on my way to see Black Mass yesterday, and I wanted to show this to you guys. Does that look familiar?
Yeah. What is it?
That's the club from We Are Your Friends.
Okay.
Literally, like in the beginning, where he first meets the girl and he meets Wes Bentley, etc., etc. That's the club. Normally, it's called Florentine Gardens, but they might have changed the name. I don't know what happened there, but it's literally on my block. So I thought you would appreciate that little, how should we say? Just reference to last week. And those of you interested, that's episode 16. We had a real good discussion about the film We Are Your Friends. So feel free to check that out on YouTube when you so desire.
Yeah, very nice callback, Jay.
What's that?
Very nice callback.
Yeah, thanks. Trying to work it there, squeeze it in a current feature discussion.
Yes,
and I have to turn the fan off in order to talk to you guys so I can hear you guys, and it's like I'm going to be sweltering by 7:30 Pacific. So I got a bomb to drop on you guys.
Okay.
Now that we turn things back to Black Mass, I actually know John Connolly and John Morris, who are played in this film. My dad was a criminal investigator, specializing in the mafia and organized crime. He was part of a group called the McLaughlin, which stands for Middle Atlantic Great Lakes Organized Crime Law Enforcement Network. And literally John Connolly and John Morris were at the house, and played golf with my dad from time to time. So it's interesting. I was younger. 12 at most was maybe the last time I saw one of these guys. But I certainly remember their names and not necessarily, connecting them to criminal activity of any kind. But interesting little tidbit that I thought at least J Money would appreciate. Davy Joe doesn't give a shit.
What? I care very much. That's amazing.
I'm going to avoid getting in arguments with you anymore, JB, now that I understand exactly what could happen. Did you talk to your dad about this movie?
My dad, unfortunately, is no longer with us, so that's not really...
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. It's quite all right. But I am going to tell you about this movie. The Black Mass is the story of FBI agent John Connolly that we talked about, who recruits his boyhood friend and local mobster Whitey Bulger, here played by Johnny Depp. He recruits him to inform on other mobsters. Bulger then uses the opportunity to eliminate his competition and grows his own organization in a nefarious way, which makes things difficult for the FBI. Would that about sum it up, guys?
It's perfect.
Yeah, that basically covers everything.
Cool. So anyway, I guess it's time for opening thoughts. J Money, let's start with you.
It was fine.
Okay. That was shorter than I expected, so I was doing something else, and now I need to click to Davy Joe.
All right.
So yeah, the title would suggest that it's a kind of a bleak movie.
How does the title suggest that exactly?
Black Mass. It's kind of a dark film.
Okay, what did you think of it?
I loved it.
Wow.
Loved it. My opening statement is to say that it is now clear to me, seeing his third film, that Scott Cooper is not a complete filmmaker. And I think it's fair to say I did not love it. So let's start with, I guess there's start with a positive. Davy Joe, what did you love about this movie? I have some positives, but I'm curious as to what you liked about it.
Well, we could talk about Johnny Depp later. I obviously his performance I enjoyed tremendously. I think what I liked about this movie was it didn't go down the kind of tried and true Goodfellas road. It didn't. There's no happy time.
Does it occur to you that maybe it should have?
No, because it's you're not gonna do that any better than it's been done, So why not take a different tack and I don't know. I just thought that the fact that the movie was dark and that it never ever lets up. It's not fun.
I don't understand how these are good qualities. You're just making observations, but I don't understand how that connects to liking the film.
It doesn't necessarily. You don't need to do that. It doesn't need to be. It doesn't need to be fun. It doesn't need to be. You don't need to.
Again. I'm trying to understand what connects you to liking it.
What I like about it is it's kind of it had a unique feel to me in that sense that it stayed dark and it never let up. I feel like other movies like Casino, like Goodfellas, the Scorsese movies, the gangster movies, they have moments of levity and moments where they're fun, and I love those movies. Don't get me wrong, but this was just different, and it felt kind of fresh to me in that regard.
Also, there's Davy Joe's deep-seated depression, which I think helps him kind of connect with a lot.
Davy Joe, you understand the title, right?
You can you explain it to the audience.
Because you talked about how bleak it sounded, but you know what it's referring to.
Explain it.
The state.
The state? Oh yes, Massachusetts. That
yeah, but a Black Mass is also a funeral, isn't it?
It's not a specific kind of funeral, I don't think. Not that I'm familiar with.
But it's a general funeral. It's a Black Mass. It's a mass.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yes.
So it's a double entendre as much as
I understand. Yeah, no, but it's Anyway, that beside the point.
I didn't know the state of
That's where I went
Massachusetts.
with that
I thought you were gonna. I thought you had something deeper than that. No, yes, Massachusetts. I knew that.
Yeah, I see you trying to dig out. All right, so I mean, like, you brought it up, Johnny Depp, and so that brings up maybe the one good quality that I have in the film, and that is performances are its strength, but Johnny Depp's not one of them to me. I think he overdoes it. Personally, I don't think it's a bad performance, but I mean, like, I actually, with the contacts and things like that. I mean, like, they took me out of it. I never really thought that he was embodying a character completely. So Johnny Depp's not one of them, but I actually thought a lot of Scott Cooper is an actor that turned director. And I mean, are you guys familiar with his other two films?
I know they exist, but I've never seen them.
Crazy Heart and Out of the Furnace.
Yeah.
And if there's anything that's consistent among these films is, strong performances. Actually, Jeff Bridges won an Oscar for Crazy Heart, but actually the best performance in any of these three films is Christian Bale in Out of the Furnace. None of these films are good films. Christian Bale gives a great performance, nuanced performance in Out of the Furnace, but Johnny Depp. The strengths of this film to me, a lot of the smaller performances, and supporting performances. I thought Dakota Johnson acquitted herself well in a short period of time. Surprisingly, that's why that stands out in my mind. I think that Juno Temple is always amazing and was great in her 1.5 scenes. I think about Peter Sarsgaard doing a great job. I think about Kevin Bacon and what he brought to the table. His usual understated, nuanced work. But even Julianne Nicholson I thought was pretty good. But some of the other performances were a little uneven. I thought Adam Scott didn't belong in this movie. That was a distraction. He didn't, that needs to be played by a smaller guy.
People audibly laughed when he popped up on screen for the first time.
Yeah, I mean, like, that mustache wasn't working. It was no good. And Joel Edgerton was pushing to me, and I guess that's true of Johnny Depp as well. They were so focused on doing, the accents and like the attitude that, and it's partially the screenplay's fault, and I'll get to that. But I felt like that they were playing caricatures, which is strange because these are real people that they're playing.
That's a fair point. I mean, it's. For me, I think that I fall between the two of you guys ultimately on where I feel about this movie. I don't think it was a bad movie. I just didn't think that it was a movie that really covered any kind of new ground. I guess, as opposed to what Davey Joe is saying, I felt like it felt like it was running through the numbers on making a mafia movie. And I guess I would attribute a lot of that to the screenplay because I felt like there was absolutely zero arc for any of the characters. I felt like they were all kind of just there, really molded into their very specific type of reflection of these mobsters, and there really wasn't anything that happened between them that changed their attitudes, to make them emote in any way. I mean, I think David Joe, to your point, with the movies you talked about with the mobster movies like Casino and Goodfellas, those movies tend to humanize the main characters. So you're seeing like human elements of all the gangsters in those films, and you're empathizing with them. This movie didn't really have any of that. This movie really had very sort of two-dimensional characters, which were I thought incredibly well played. Even I don't really have any problem with Depp's performance, for instance, for that matter. It's just that they were all very straightforward performances. They were all just one note. They only went in one direction the entire time. So, for me, it's like I walked out of it feeling like I'm not really sure if I got anything more out of this movie than I would have from just even reading about it in the paper in a certain way. It's like they never really brought any larger conversation about the mafia or about these guys that grew up in this really tight, loyal neighborhood or what it meant for this whole massive crime wave, in the 80s and 90s, into the conversation. It was really just about how cool these guys were or how crazy they were or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, and maybe that's why I really but I really appreciate some of these supporting performances, like here's Dakota Johnson, because, like, in their small amount of time, I felt depth, and that's something that the movie was otherwise missing. You're dead on a lot of ways. J Money, and I think what it is with this screenplay is it's sprawling. It needs to cover each of these events as they happen, and it's like almost journalistically.
Yeah.
it has its place, but what it could have used is like it could have been about their relationship. Their like
Right.
if it heightened the friendship between Connolly and Bulger, assuming there was one, if that that would have given it some gravitas, some depth. It didn't have that depth. It was just a series of events.
Yeah.
And it occasionally took its time to show that Bulger was a psychopath, which I don't know that he actually was that psychopathic. You know what I mean? He was quite brilliant, but I don't think he was that. Like they talk about LSD and things like that. I mean, like I don't think he was that. He was like really off his rocker. If he was, he wouldn't have escaped or evaded justice for however many years that he did.
I mean, you were the one hanging out with him on the weekends, so you'll have to tell us. But I guess
I mean, like, I do have some backstory in that, but I mean, like, I think that aspect of it was overplayed for dramatic emphasis.
Yeah, it was interesting because I felt like this movie specifically suffered from all the problems I have with normal biopics, in the sense that it really, it's covering a certain amount of time. It has to hit all the main events in that time.
What was the film you referenced? I missed it.
Not a film, just a style or genre, biopics.
Oh, biopics. Oh, yes.
I'm never really a fan of biopics in general, and I feel like a lot of the reason for that was in this movie, even though this movie was in a lot of ways a biopic as much as it was about everything else that was happening. So I feel like
but it didn't need to be, and it shouldn't have been. And I mean,
I kind of agree. I agree that I'd rather they had focused in on a specific relationship and sort of delved into, they were suggesting that there was a reason for Bulger to be this way, but they never really showed you why he was that way. So I wish that they. And
there's a reason. I mean, that The Departed, which is the same story.
Yes.
Chose the things that it did. It was focused on the relationships, in that case particularly between DiCaprio and Nicholson, and in some cases DiCaprio and Matt Damon. It was, in that sense, it was more successful, so the blueprint was there, and this was probably too soon after The Departed, quite frankly, to bother making this film, and I'm a little disappointed because I was really looking forward to it. Davey Joe, do you have a quick rebuttal for all of our complaints?
Well, no, I as far as the the lack of an arc of the character, I mean, I feel like at least with Bulger, you're talking about a guy who was a cross between a sociopath and a psychopath, and I think that the movie did show that he could be sort of endearing and he could kind of turn it on and charm people.
Do you have percentages on the cross between psychopath and sociopath? Is he like 40% psychopath? Like, where are you driving at there?
I want to know which parts you were endeared by, because I need to.
I wasn't. What I'm saying is that it showed how he could win people over. Like with the old lady, where he's putting his arm around her and helping her get her bags into the house and things like that. But that's
not new to mafia movies either.
But what I'm saying is it didn't go too far. It didn't show him at the wedding with the party going on and everyone joking around and having a good time. And don't get me wrong, that those scenes in other movies are cool, but
don't you see that there's a reason those scenes are in there? Those scenes are in there to humanize these people. And to make them identifiable characters instead of items in a newspaper.
Yeah, but I thought this time around this movie did just enough to show you how other people could get the idea that they were humans, where in reality these aren't regular people. They were monsters. And I just liked it. To me, it was kind of fresh in the sense that it never took the light off of it. And I can see how that could be, how someone else might not appreciate that, but I thought that it was an interesting way of doing it, and it was different, and it makes this movie kind of unique to me. It's almost another thing. I'll tell you what, I'd say that this movie is almost a subgenre of horror. Because it's definitely unsettling, and it never lets you get comfortable.
Well, that's interesting.
I don't think that makes any sense to me at all.
Well, I guess I get in. I can see why, because I think that what you're saying, Davey Joe, is that it presents the idea of this this sort of like psychopath, if you will, in a way that is very straightforward. It's not necessarily glamorizing him as much as just literally showing his sort of awful tendencies, and that's realistic. So in that sense, it's a realistic sort of horror. It's just that you have to really you have to kind of be willing to spend 2 hours watching just that if you're gonna.
That's absolutely right. That's absolutely right. It's not. You don't get comfortable. It doesn't let you get comfortable. And
yes, that's true. That's true. It never lets you get comfortable. It's just that I also feel like it never really gives you a reason to totally feel uncomfortable. Like you don't really ever know exactly what's at the root of everything. You don't really get the peace and the disturbance because it's all one note. It's all one tone the entire time. There's no real climax. There's no real big sort of setup and downfall. There's not really a lot of energy because of that. Unfortunately, I think it just felt like one consistent sort of slow grind toward what we think, or at least I think what we all knew was probably coming, because Bolger's been in the news relatively recently, even so.
I don't think that's much.
Right, and that's I think that's part of the issue too, to some degree. Is I think that like for example, Connolly's journey is important. Like at one point in the beginning, he seems like he is very much interested in doing justice, and at some point he had a transition to not, and I think that's the key to the movie. Like at some point he became interested in the crime life altogether, and that was a real issue, because that it didn't show that situation. It did not show his journey, and that's a real problem in the screenplay, I think. And
I got the impression that that journey happened.
Guys, our time is up, so we got to wrap it up. But go ahead, J Money.
I would say my impression was that journey happened before the movie even started. That he had already kind of made a decision.
But I mean, like that's unclear because I mean, like in that first scene, like that's very possible. Then I want to see that too, because in the first scene, the way it's played, it seems like he wants to do good. Like he feels like Whitey is harmless, and he feels like he can use him to advance his career. I get all that, and it did not seem to me like he wanted to advance Whitey's career per se.
Because I feel like his entire character, the whole thing that with his character that we're banging again over and over was about loyalty. So I feel like his whole character was only about the fact that this guy has remained loyal to his childhood sort of like foundation, which was that you survive to do what you have to do on the streets and you help out those who are friends to you. So I feel like he came into this movie, in the service of saying, "Hey, I'm going to help."
At some point, he started falsifying documents and things like that. My impression, based on how the movie played it out, whether or not it's true or not, I mean, but based on how the movie played it out, my impression is that he had good intentions in the beginning, and that somewhere it went awry, whether it's money or whatever, and he just, that needed to be in this movie. That was the critical point in this movie, and they ignored it. So from a screenplay point of view, it's just a mess. So guys, we got to wrap it up, but we started late, unfortunately, and we're also having some technical issues. I do want to say to our viewers, thanks for watching. If you have comments or questions, feel free to put them either on YouTube or Facebook or anything like that, we will get to them at some point. We'll either type you back or we'll answer it on one of our next broadcasts. In about 3 minutes, although it looks like we're going to run late, we're going to talk about our Indie Spotlight for the night, which is a movie from 2010 called Rabbit Hole with Nicole Kidman and Aaron Eckhart, directed by John Cameron Mitchell. That is up next for us, so we will see you in just a few minutes. Thanks very much. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.